and taken pro bono. On our team, we currently have 8 advocates. Those include Angelica, Antonia, Kira, Gabby, Mara, Mavlet, and Elisa and Jonas, who will be here with us through June. I'm sorry, I think almost to the end of June. And then there is me, Nikisha. Today, some of the items that we're going to be talking about are ways to complete an intake, our eligibility guidelines, the types of cases we can and can't help with, our applications, what the application review process looks like, and pitching and placing cases. And so I'm going to pass it on over to our first member of the team who will be presenting about ways to complete intake.
Thank you, Makisha. Hi, everyone. I'm Navlet, and today I will be sharing with you about our telephone intake process. So our telephone intake hours are Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 12. Our exceptions to that, we're closed on holidays or MVLS scheduled events, like when we do our computer cleanups in June, and we have those 2 scheduled days off, we're not on intake. And then, of course, our holidays. The general Baltimore Metro number for us to be reached at is the 410-547-6537. But we do have clients that are not in the Baltimore area. And we actually have clients that sometimes call from out of the country, and they actually use our 1-800-510-0050 number for the toll free. On a normal day without intake, we have 3 to 4 legal advocates fielding the calls at a time. We do our best to utilize our 15 minutes to obtain the pertinent information to see if the client, the potential client or the applicant is eligible for our program. And in an average week, we answer between 250 or more calls. Next slide. Thank you, Makisha. For our online intake, the highlighted green version, you will be able to click on that and it takes us to our picture that's on the side of our client and his daughter. And with the orange arrow points to our free legal help. That's where it takes us to. The online intakes for everyone's convenience is open 24 hours at all times. However, with our family law matters, because of the sensitive nature and certain questions, those only can be conducted through our telephone intake. So they will not be able to conduct that, even if they wanted to try via online. Our applications are reviewed by a legal advocate within 30 days. When clients call in, we generally tell them between 2 to 4 weeks. Of course, once again, that does not include holidays and that does not include weekends. Our time frame to review is 60 days. And time frame is 60 days to place with a volunteer. However, we do share with our clients via case acceptance letters and when they do call in that we do our best, but placement is not guaranteed. And that's solely based on the fact of we cannot speak for our volunteers with their calendar availability, but we have a good placement rate. So to help our applicants before applying, we have our income guidelines and our eligibility guidelines on the website. When someone calls in or they fill out the online application, we will confirm that their income falls within our guidelines. We operate off of the federal guidelines, so we take the gross household income that is earned before any deductions, and it cannot exceed the 50% of the Maryland median income. Some of our applicants, when we ask about the household income and not just the person that's applying, this is where we step in and explain to them the reason that we ask the questions about the other members in the household that are over the age of 18 that receive an income. And sometimes we ask questions about the minors that are living in the household because those minors can receive either benefits from a deceased parent, they receive child support, of course, that will come into the adult's name. We also consider assets such as properties, vehicles, and financial accounts, savings, checkings accounts. And while we're doing this, there's other factors that we consider. Of course, we all know that we take care of clients that are underrepresented. So we analyze their ability to pay for our legal services. the majority of our clients that call intake, when you speak to them, unfortunately, you learn that they have extenuating circumstances. They have overdue medical bills. They're deciding whether they should buy medication or pay for a bill. So that's where we step in and alleviate some of that stress. And when we are speaking to our applicants or reviewing documents, we ask about case details. We look at court case numbers. We ask for adverse party information, which is very important. When we're partnering our clients to make sure that we do not send a client and an adverse party to the same law firm, because we know that's not good, and other information pertinent to the case to help. Thank you. Okay, I'll continue on. And with the income and asset guidelines, as you can see at the picture on the side, the snippet, also underneath the free legal help button under eligibility, it will explain to our applicants what we will need. So we will confirm that their income meets our guidelines when they send in their what we call supporting documents. That will either be their most recent pay stub, or some individuals that get paid in cash. We accept letters from the employers outlining their hourly rate, how long they've been there, and we can calculate it that way. Some individuals supply 3 months of bank statements because they utilize services such as Uber driving or DoorDash driving. So we meet the clients where they're at to assist them. We, as I said before, we include the property at this particular moment, the guidelines that we're following, unless it's extenuating circumstances like foreclosure or liens. Our max for capping off a home is $300K. And with that being shared, our eligibility guidelines, even though we can't click it right now, this leads us to the picture on the right-hand side of the eligibility. And thank you for listening.
Hi everyone, my name is Maura, and so let's get started with talking about what we help with. So if you've been at MVLS for a little bit, these probably sound familiar, but we help with 6 main areas of law. So we help with consumer issues like bankruptcy and collections, criminal record expungement, so getting some old criminal cases off someone's record that's holding them back, estate planning and administration, so making sure that folks have documents set up for after they pass away. Family law, of course, so a lot of custody, a lot of divorce cases, housing matters like deed changes, and income tax law. So those are the areas that we help with. And then on the next slide, these are the cases that our team placed in fiscal year 2024, just broken down by the problem code. So you can see we help with a lot of custody and divorce cases, also a lot of criminal record expungement, and wills and estate planning. And then kind of as it goes down, you see that we don't take as many like adoption or tort cases. So what are some things that we can't help with? So if a client calls in and they have a final hearing in less than 30 days, unfortunately, it doesn't give us enough time to find them an attorney. So we have to reject those cases. We offer help with civil legal matters, but we don't handle any criminal cases. No class action lawsuits, appeals. We don't help setting up trusts. No medical malpractice or personal injury cases. No affirmative suits, traffic cases, admin hearings, benefit denials. And if a client has an active protective order against them, which is the results of like them like perpetrating domestic violence against someone, we cannot assist them. Or if they have an open investigation with Child Protective Services, or if there's been a finding against them that they've been found responsible for child abuse or neglect, we can't help with that either. So to make sure that clients are eligible, this slide just kind of breaks down some things that we immediately look for on intake. So as Navlet was saying, yeah, we make sure the client is within our income and asset guidelines. We make sure there's not a final hearing in less than 30 days, so we have enough time to place them with an attorney. For family law cases, which we get a lot of calls about, again, we make sure there's no protective orders, active CPS cases or CPS findings. And we also take domestic violence into consideration. And we also use a set of more specific guidelines called the internal guidelines. It just breaks down which specific cases we can help and not help with. And you can find those in SharePoint in the intake pro bono folder, and then there's a folder for guidelines. And unfortunately, we do have to, refer some clients to other organizations. So there's kind of three main categories of referrals we give. So if a client needs brief legal advice or just legal information, unfortunately, because they're paralegals, we can't give them advice. So we refer them to organizations like the Court Help Center, Family Law Hotline, or the Just Advice Project, which is run through the University of Maryland. If clients are seeking representation, so like an attorney to go with them to court, we will refer them to an organization like Civil Justice. Most counties have a local bar association, or we refer them to organizations similar to MVLS, so like Legal Aid, Shore Legal Access, or Community Legal Services. And then sometimes when we're on the phone, we notice there are other issues coming up in the call. So sometimes we have to make non-legal referrals to organizations like the Baltimore Crisis Response for folks who might be in like a mental health crisis. Or we can refer folks to domestic violence shelters if that seems to be a concern, or provide them the number for either child or adult protective services if there's some kind of abuse or exploitation concerns. And if you want to see the full list of like the quick referral list we give to clients and use, you can find that in the intake pro bono folder.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gabby, and I'm going to be talking to you about the applications themselves and the application review process. So you'll see that there are many different types of application, and then there's also terms and conditions pages, and I'm going to explain kind of the difference between those two. With full paper applications, which include family law cases, bankruptcy, tax controversy, foreclosure, and tax sale. Those all require proof of income and oftentimes court documents or like for bankruptcy, credit reports. And this will kind of like make or break whether we can take the case or not. And so those are why those are required for that. And then with terms and conditions cases, you can see, shout out to Angelica for the slide, but you can see the different legal problems codes, the LPCs listed under each type of application or terms and conditions pages. And with terms and conditions pages, we can either mail, text, or email them to the client, which just makes the process a little bit faster. And oftentimes the terms and conditions pages like have a faster review process, whereas the full paper application, there's a little bit more thoroughness that has to go into the review process. We can go to the next slide. And so with application review, we review incoming applications in 2 to 4 weeks. It's really important, and I always say this when I have a call with a client, is like pages 3 to 5 on that application are really important, and 3 and 5, 3 is the household income. 4 asks about assets. And all of those questions needed to be checked yes or no with a value included if there's a value. And then page 5 is the terms and conditions page, and that of course needs to be signed and dated. So we review those, and oftentimes there are speed bumps in those processes. We send out what's called a missing document letter a lot of the times, listing the other things we will need in order for the application process to be complete and determine acceptance. And that can also add an additional 2 to 4 weeks to the timeline. Clients can submit documents by mail. They can scan it, email it to us, they can fax it, or they can send it, they can bring it themselves to the Dropbox outside of our office. Okay. And then on to the next person.
Hello, everyone. And I will also be sitting with Jonas, my coworker, and we are partnered with the DSCI program. So I am going to talk about after the review process. After reviewing the online intakes, after reviewing the online intakes, applications, and supporting documents, we assess the information and determine the appropriate next steps. We then send the client the relevant correspondent outline these steps. And next we'll have Jonas speaking.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jonas, and I'm here under a program called Maryland Core Servicer Option, and I'm here for like a specific time. It's a very interesting program, and also I'm very grateful to join the MVLS team. So my part will be, so what will be like the types of letters that we are going to send for the clients? Basically, like we do have 4 types of letters: the acceptance, the rejection, call intake, the missing document, and the referral letters. So when we see like the first acceptance letter here, the client has just completed the application and also provide us the necessary required documents. And also here the client is eligible under the income and asset guideline. And then we are going to send the client the acceptance letter. Here we are going to send the client the referral resource letters together with the acceptance letter. It's for to give the client the opportunity, like if the client wants to see another option. That's why we send him the referral lists. The second one is the rejection letter. So this is the opposite of the first one. Here the client make the application, but either the client is ineligible due to the income and asset guideline or the internal guideline, or this client doesn't provide the necessary documents that we require from the client. So here we are going to send the rejection letter. Here we are also will be send the resource list together with the rejection letter. Here the next is the call intake letter. This is a letter that we are going to send for the client when the request made by the client is not that much clear, or if we just require some kind of necessary documents. We are going to send the call intake letter. It has like a detail to give us a call. We're gonna send him like the call intake number and the time that the client has to call, so that to make clear the client's request. So we can think like a scenario where a client may make an online intake for expungement, but when we see the details in the intake, it may say, I have this amount of date, I want an assistance to get relief. So here, like the request, the legal issue for the client is not that much clear. So we will make the client to give us a call and to make the legal issue clear. So the next is the missing document letter. Here the client also make the application completed, but we requested the necessary document that we need from the client in order to move forward. So what are the necessary documents will be discussed, I think, in the next slides. Here, there are time frames, which is 20 days, but we are not stricted with these 20 days. We encourage the client to send those information or documents within 20 days. But it doesn't mean that if the client send after the 20 days, it doesn't mean that we are not going to review the case. It's like some kind of encouragement for the client. The last one is the referral letter. Here, the client had the chance to get the volunteer. So we are able to match the case with the volunteer. So we send this letter for the client in order to meet with the volunteer within 5 business days. And also we are going to give the contact information of the volunteer for the clients. Yeah, these are like the letters. Basically, all these letters are going to be sent out through mail and email, and also we will gonna notify the clients through text based on their consent. Thank you.
Next, we will be talking about case status definitions. So first, we have pending level 0. This is a waiting text certification. This means the client will receive a text message to complete the terms and conditions page. Pending level 1 is application sent. This means intake complete, application sent to client, or paper terms and conditions has been sent. Then we will have pending level 2, application received and review. So this means the application has been sent to us and that the paralegals are in the process of reviewing the application to make sure that everything has been received. Pending level 3 is additional information requested and in review. Client must send missing documents, and examples will be like court documents, proof of income, or credit reports for MVLS to proceed with their case. Then next, we'll have pending level 4, which is additional documents received and, pending level 3 is additional information requested and in review. And that's when we are missing documents from clients and that we will need to process their case and for them to receive a volunteer. The next we'll have pending level 4, which is additional documents received and in review. So this means all additional documents have been received and we are currently reviewing for completeness. Then next, we'll have awaiting placement, and this is when the client's case has been accepted and the team is working to assign their case to a volunteer. And then we have rejected, and this happens when a client was ineligible to receive our services and a referral was provided. So when it's been rejected because of income or because they have an active protective order or they have a case that's less than 30 days. And lastly, we have placed with staff and volunteer, and this is when the client has been referred to either an MVS volunteer or an MVLS staff attorney. And next, we'll have Antonia, and she'll be talking about required documents.
So Lisa, I'm just going to jump in quickly and say about pending level 3 and 4. They're basically the same. Sometimes even after the client has sent in the documents, it might still remain in pending level 3. So just be aware that we may or may not have received those documents yet. If you see pending level 3, and then pending level 4 doesn't necessarily mean that we've received all additional documents. It's just that we've received something from the client that is waiting to be reviewed. Thanks. I'm gonna go to the next slide.
Hi guys, I'm Antonia. I'm going to go through like the specific documents that we look for in addition to the paper applications that we receive, depending on case type. Each case is a little different as to what documents we're looking for and what's required. So for family law cases, primarily custody, custody modification, and divorce cases. Hold on, my notes. So we of course request proof of income of all household members. We request court documents, and that kind of is dependent on where the case is at, the court case is at. We ask for complaints, answers, and orders. So if there's been any temporary custody orders, we look for amended complaints and answers. For modification cases, we'll look for the current custody order. And the intake team goes onto case search and kind of goes through and sees what has been filed, and that determines what we request from the clients. And then CPS documents, if it's applicable. If there has been a history of CPS in the custody case, then we'll request the closing document just to make sure that there have been no findings against the client. Adult guardianship cases, similarly, we request proof of income from all household members, as well as 2 medical certificates. These can be from a physician, psychologist, or licensed social worker. Chapter 7 bankruptcy, we request proof of income from household members and then 6 months of income from the client, or if they receive like Social Security, we'll request that award letter. We ask for the past 3 years of their taxes, federal and state, and then 2 credit reports. Sometimes if a client is receiving Social Security and they haven't filed taxes due to low income, then we request a tax letter, just them stating on a piece of paper that they haven't filed because of receiving Social Security. Filed for taxes. Next would be our tax cases. That requires the past 3 pay stubs from the clients, any tax documents such as tax returns, transcripts, or IRS notice, basically anything to show like the nature of the tax problem. Following 3 are reviewed by our consumer team or Ian, but these for foreclosure, he looks for proof of income, overdue mortgage statements, and the notice of intent to foreclose. Tax sale cases, those additional documents would be notice of tax sale, final bill or legal notice, order to docket, and then relevant liens or overdue bills such as like HOA, water bills, environmental citations. And then the bankruptcy bypass program, also reviewed by the consumer team, requests proof of income like their Social Security award letter or pension statements, overdue bills, and 2 credit reports as well. And then I just listed here, these again are the cases that we only send terms and condition pages for. So when we review these, we're just looking to make sure that terms and conditions is in and signed. And then if you did want a full list of each case type and what we look for, those are kind of instructions on where to find it in SharePoint. And then that green link also pulls up the document directly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kira. So after the cases have been accepted and we are now in the awaiting placement status, we then move forward with the next steps, which is pitching. The general ways that we normally pitch is through the pro bono portal or email pitches or what we call mass pitching. So in the pro bono portal, that is when volunteers, they will ask for more information from our pro bono portal. We normally have within 24 hours to respond to the portal. Generally, when we respond to the volunteers, we will we provide the case summary for that specific case, and then ask if they need the information to run a conflicts check. Once the conflicts check has cleared, or the volunteer just simply decides to take the case, we proceed with assignment. If the volunteer is not on the panel, we do have a link that we provide to them to complete the link. We then confirm that they've completed it, and then we move forward with the next steps of giving the information from the pro bono portal. The next part would be email pitches or mass pitching. Normally what we do is we will pull a list of volunteers based on their caseload, last assignment start date, and then their experience level. We then take that list and we create an email that checks their availability just to see if they are able to take any cases. If they do have that time to take cases, we then move with the next steps of doing a conflict check or sending the client file as they request. For the general rules of pitching, we do have a max limit for volunteers. There is a 10 case maximum per volunteer for any normal cases. You can get up to 15 cases maximum for experienced volunteers for estate administrations and deed changes. For expungement cases, experienced volunteers can take up to 20 cases. If there are specific recommend pro bono notes, they'll normally be within the list that we pull up, where they may not be able to take cases at a certain time, or they're limited to a certain number, or things like that. If we are unsure of if they're able to take the case based off of that note, we generally will just ask the pro bono director, which is Akeisha. For adjudicare cases, we do have to confirm that they are enrolled in the adjudicare panel list before assigning the case. And if we're unsure, we then just reach out to the family law director, which is Nancy. We also confirm this information with the bankruptcy cases to make sure that they are federally barred to be able to take cases for bankruptcy. And then lastly, we have placing. So after the volunteer decides to take their case, we then move forward with creating the client file for the assigned volunteer. For the client file, that includes the referral letters, acceptance letter, application, case documents, and the client responsibility agreement. For online intakes, we just send the referral letters, the acceptance letter, the intake report, and just the terms and conditions form. For expungement cases, we generally will pull the client's criminal record, so that way the attorney has an idea of what may be eligible for their specific case. And then we also have resources and mentorship available. So if a volunteer is not too sure on how to move forward with a certain case, or they're just trying it for the first time, or if they just want to get a refresher on specific case types, we do provide mentors that will look through their cases or look over their work, as well as providing resources like training videos and PowerPoints that will assist them with moving forward. We also provide the language line as well for a volunteer that has a client that is of a different language.
And that brings us to the end of our presentation. Do we have any questions?
I have a question. First of all, that was really awesome and super helpful. Just speaking from I'm speaking from someone that is at the front desk and deals with clients dropping off paperwork and all the things. Some of these things I didn't even know. So this was great. A great job to me. When a client comes in, like after they've gotten an acceptance letter, maybe not an acceptance letter, referral letter, and they have the volunteer's information, they often panic when they see they only have 5 days to contact the attorney. And sometimes they come in and they're like, I've been reaching out, I've been leaving messages, and I haven't heard anything back, and they panic. In that situation, I guess, what do we do? Do we just reach out to the attorney kind of on their behalf, or how does that work?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question, Erin. So a member of the team, it really depends on at what point they're coming in. Like if they just got placed a couple of days ago and said that they were calling, but they didn't get an answer, we encourage people to leave a message and give the attorney 2 to 3 days to call them back. And if after they call one more time, they still don't hear back from the attorney, then we ask them to get in touch with us. And the advocate's name is at the bottom of each placement letter, telling folks to call in if they have any issues. So that will usually be the person that you can direct them to, not meaning like send them to their desk, but put a case note into legal server, just letting us know that the client stopped by and that we need to follow up on it.
Awesome. Thank you, Makisha.
If I could just add one thing to that, and because I've had clients call me, um, when they were my client, really concerned about this, and like, the letter doesn't say like they have done their part within 5 days. You know, if they reach out to me, and we're generally like the 5 days is not a punitive approach. It's just to sort of light a fire under folks to make that connection. But I always just try to relate to them like they've done what we've asked. Like it might take the attorney, the volunteer a little bit of time to get back to them, but like they've met like what we've asked them to do.
Thanks, Susan. And we are working in the client communications committee around how we can rephrase what we're trying to get across so that folks don't panic when they get that letter saying they have 5 days. And then also to kind of highlight like who they should call it rather than calling back into intake or stopping by the office.
I think it might be helpful in some way. I don't know about the wording, but to say like Susan said, you've done your part, but please allow I don't know if it says this, allow the attorney a couple days to get back to you. I wasn't even looking at it from that perspective, so that's helpful. Thank you.
BCC, I hope you wrote that too. Then. Anyone else have a question?
I have a question. How often or like how long could it take from like start to finish for like a client for like an application process before it's like done? Because it seems like it could take quite some time.
We need at least 30 days to review the initial application, and then from there, we say it can take 30+ days. It really depends on the volunteer's availability for us to place the case. So it'll be reviewed within 30 days, but we can't say exactly when an attorney will accept the case. So we have a typical window of 30 to 60 days for the entire process, but we'd let people know it sometimes can take longer and it's not a guaranteed placement.
Okay, so you accept like they get an acceptance letter like before it's placed with an attorney. Like those are two separate steps along the process. Okay.
Yeah, the application has to be accepted and then we'll start looking for an attorney. So application isn't accepted until we've received all of the required documents, depending on what type of case it is. It might just be a terms and conditions page for some cases, and other
Okay.
cases we need proof of income, tax documents, credit reports, things like that. So the timing in which clients send that information in also affects how long they'll be waiting.
Okay. Okay. Can I ask one more question?
That makes sense.
I'm so curious.
Yeah.
Like, I guess like this is so detailed, and thank you for this presentation. It's like a lot of information that you guys all have and like very detailed processes, which is very parallel to how development works because we have similar very detailed processes. What is the very first call generally like? Like, have people already sent in an application, or is that just like a exploratory conversation?
Uh, Most people will call intake, and anyone from the team, if you want to hop in and answer this, feel free because this is y'all's domain.
I can answer, Makisha. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, so Kara, so oftentimes when people have called, for the most part, like they have not started the application. They don't really even know if they're calling the right place or if this is, going to lead them in the right direction. Sometimes they're calling for advice and then we have to redirect them out. But usually, like the intake process is like, I'd say for family law, it's like like my husband just filed for divorce and I got this like yeah, I was served like what do I do now? And then we're able to be like, okay, so you've filed something, like, let me go into the system and look up your case and like take you through this. And now we're going to talk about like if you want a lawyer for this case, because sometimes people are also, they're calling so many services, they're not even sure if they're calling the right one or if this one is going to get them a lawyer. Did that answer?
Yeah, 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 thank you.
You're muted,
think you're muted.
Makisha.
I'm not trying to be muted. I don't see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, we have folks, not unfortunately, but we have folks also who have already completed their intake or submitted an application who are also sometimes calling in just to check the status of like what's going on with their application or case placement. We try to direct those calls away from intake, but occasionally people call in because they want to speak to a live person.
And then on the occasion that like Jonas was talking about, where they've filled out an online application, but for whatever reason, it's not providing enough information, they sometimes call us and they've already sort of started the application process, but we have to like smooth some things out and ask some more questions.
I do have another question unless someone else has a question. I'll give someone else an opportunity. No? Oh, all right. So if someone comes in, and they're like, I've submitted my application, but I have an attorney that's already like willing to take my case, but they're not on our volunteer panel. Do we sort of like recruit them, or does it always pan out that way where they can join? Or like, how does that sort of work?
If their potential attorney would be eligible to take their case and like has some experience, we can sometimes offer to send them the volunteer application. We would typically like ask for the client's permission to kind of reach out to the attorney, or have the attorney, fill out the form themselves. And it really just depends on the type of case they have. Like, for example, if it's a really complicated family law case, we might not accept like a brand new newly barred person to work on like a complicated custody matter, for example. But for the most part, if they are eligible to join, we will try to get them in the family, especially if they already have a relationship with the client and want to represent them. And Nancy, you're on this
And
team.
just keep it, thanks, yes, I am. I forgot about that. Keep in mind that with the Judicare program, there has to be a level of experience that's required for these attorneys. So an attorney who, we do get those kinds of calls, Aaron, where someone will call and say, I have an attorney who would like to do it, and they're not on my panel. So what I would have to do is speak to that attorney and make sure they have the requisite experience, that is 3 years of representing contested custody and divorce cases, or 2 years with an identified Judicare mentor. If that happens, then I will send them the specific materials in which to sign up as a Judicare volunteer, and then we can assign that case.
I did want to add too, we do sometimes get calls where primarily for family law cases where the client has spoken with an attorney that is on our panel. And in that case, we continue with the intake and then we'll reach out to that volunteer directly and just confirm that they did want to take the case through us. And that kind of speeds up the placement process too.
That's a good point, Anthony. I was thinking the same thing, is that when that happens, those are the few cases where we might not follow the 30-day turnover period from the time they apply and to the time. So if we have an attorney already interested, then we can move that a little faster, and the timing is shorter for accepting and assigning a case. Am I right about that, Makisha?
Absolutely.
One,
And that's for
one
any
tip,
case, family law or otherwise. If they have an interested volunteer who wants to take it, we try to process that quicker.
and sometimes there are cases that are out of the scope of what we would normally accept. For example, there are detrimental factors when it comes to modification of custody for order. And when we share these with the clients, one may say, for example, Attorney Geraldine DeLambo told me that I can call in as long as I fit MVLS guidelines and go through the process. She will be willing to accept my case. And after you listen to the events of the case, you realize that there were certain things in there that if Attorney DeLambo did not reference that this will be a case that we will refer out. But we have such great volunteers that this is what they do. So sometimes it's on a case-by-case basis, depending on the attorney's request for assistance to a client's case.
Thank you.
And there are those moments where you have I get a lot of cold calls, people may get my name from somebody and I get a cold call and I'm not, we don't like to put clients who are calling in and are desperate and before ones that have already been waiting, if we can avoid that. But sometimes there's an urgency where the team and I will discuss, this is family law only that I'm speaking of, the team and I will discuss whether or not this merits moving forward quicker through the process.
I just want to kind of add to your initial question, Kara, or I guess your secondary question about what the initial intake call can look like. For most of these clients, they're really like in the thick of their legal matter. And so that can really dictate how the interaction goes down. So yeah, sometimes we try to keep calls to 15 minutes. Sometimes they go much longer than that because it's possible that the applicant has called like several other resources similar to MVLS, and we're kind of like their last option. So sometimes they bring a lot of that frustration, along with just the frustration of like the situation that they didn't really choose to be in. And then there's some clients who it's just kind of easier to just get through the intake and they're more cooperative. But we see a lot of mix of ways that people are showing up.
Sorry,
Thanks.
muted Makisha.
I mean, I can hear you through the wall, Makisha, but I don't think we can hear you on the screen. Maybe mute and then unmute. Yes.
Okay, sorry. I was just gonna say a final parting tip. If you are directing someone to call intake, if they mention that they have a hearing within 45 days, suggest that they request a postponement for the call because we likely can't assist if the hearing is less than 30 days out. So. All right, I think unless anyone else has another question, I'm gonna stop sharing this big obnoxious screen. All right, thank you guys. Great job, Intake Pro Bono team. And I'm gonna hand it back over to our moderators.